What is going on, guys? My name is Phantuums and welcome to the 50k subscriber YouTube special. Obviously, I want to give big thanks to all you guys who take the times out of your day to watch the videos. I appreciate you guys so much. No matter if this becomes bigger or if this dies down, I just want to say that you guys have impacted my life and played a huge role in my life, and I can't thank you guys enough. 50k isn't really that crazy of a number. It's still a very, very accomplishing thing for myself, but I don't ever want you guys to think that I think I'm better or more important than anyone. I don't want you guys to think that I take this for granted or anything like that. I am so appreciative, and I've worked very long to see some sort of results on my YouTube, and finally seeing it is amazing. And I just want to thank you guys, because obviously without you guys watching and supporting, this wouldn't even be a possibility. This wouldn't even be a reality. So I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and I appreciate you guys so much. You'll never understand. So thank you very much for 50,000 subscribers. And yeah, so as you guys can tell, I sound a little different. I'm actually not reading off a script. I'm just speaking how I really feel, and you guys see the title. This is going to be about my journey in my personal life, and my personal life is something I've never talked about on the internet, let alone talked about with anybody in person. I don't even tell people, my friends that I grew up with, they don't even know about things like this. So this is going to be something that's very hard for me to do. And if you guys don't want to listen, to something that's it's a little bit on, not really it's kind of on the sad side. It's just not really a positive. It's not really a thing that's celebration kind of thing. But this is something I've always wanted to do. This is something that I think is going to help me mentally, and it's going to help me cope with. So if you guys could understand that, I'm not trying to make this video for people to feel sorry for me. I'm not trying to make this video for anything. I just want to be honest with myself, and I want to be honest with you guys, because you guys have changed my life. This is my job, and I've always wanted to make a video like this because I was scared. When I hit 20k subscribers, I actually made this video, but I privated it because I felt vulnerable, and I felt like I was not manly enough to speak about things that bother me, especially on the internet. But I no longer care about that. I no longer, want to be afraid to express, what bothers me and what I go through in life, because I just want to be honest with myself, and I want to have some sort of closure with the things that bother me. So let's start off with 2 months ago. Let's start off with 2 months ago, and this has a big impact to play with, why I started YouTube and why I started taking it seriously. So a couple months ago, I fell in love for the first time in my life with a girl, and she was a very important part of my life. She was my my go-to, and a person that I would turn to when I had issues in my life. So she was someone I relied on heavily, which is very unhealthy, by the way. And things didn't work out. I'm not going to get into details, but I truly loved this girl. I cared about her a lot, and she was a very big part of my life. But things didn't work out, and that absolutely destroyed me as a person, and especially for me mentally. That really had a dramatic impact on my mental health. And I, for the first time in my life, felt myself losing control. As a 24-year-old, I felt myself spiraling out of control, and I didn't think that I was going to be able to recover. I really didn't think there was, a light at the end of this miserable, dark tunnel. And it might sound like I'm being dramatic because it's just a breakup, but once you go through something that is very traumatizing, and especially a breakup, you'll understand that it's a very dangerous place for people who aren't prepared to handle things like that. So that really had a big impact on my mental health, and I found myself drinking every single night. I was drinking 5 to 6 days a week. I was drunk all the time. I was just not in the right mindset, and there was no me thinking about doing something else. When I felt down or I felt sad, I would drink. And it was the first time in my life where I felt myself becoming an alcoholic and becoming someone who is abusing a substance to make himself feel better. And that's when I took a moment to step back and say, what am I doing? You know, let me put my time into something that is worth it. And that's where I found YouTube. That's where I found a passion for making YouTube videos. Was my traumatizing experience that really affected me allowed me to find an outlet, which was YouTube. And a lot of people have outlets when they go through traumatizing experience, you know, whether it be music, YouTube, or even watching YouTube videos or watching whatever. I want to make YouTube for that, because I know what it's like to, you know, feel down. I know what it's like to go through things. Everyone does, right? Everyone goes through breakups. Everyone goes through things in life. But I that's the reason why I started doing YouTube, because it was a distraction for me not to focus on, you know, what I was going through at the time. So the reason why I talk about the breakup is because that is a big reason on why I started to take YouTube seriously and why I started to actually get into it. So it was a big negative in my life, and it had a very, very big impact on my mental health, and probably, you know, have a big impact on relationships going forward. It's definitely something that bettered me as a person, and it allowed for me to look at it now as a positive, because I grew myself, and I grew, you know, my YouTube channel, and I also got partnered on Twitch too, because it gave me that extra push. Sometimes you need to go through a dramatic experience, whether it be a breakup, getting fired, whatever the case may be. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that extra little motivation to prove that you can be capable of doing something. And that's exactly what that did. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to use this negative and I'm going to turn it into a positive. And that's exactly what I did. And I can't thank you guys enough for showing support, because you guys arguably like saved my life. Not saved my life, because I don't want to sound dramatic like that, but you guys arguably saved me from spiraling out of control, for going through that. And I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, because I was scared. I was scared. I didn't see a way out of feeling good. Like, the only thing I could relate to is drinking. Obviously there was never, you know, suicidal thoughts or anything like that, but there definitely wasn't positivity, that's for sure. So I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for supporting me and sticking with me. So thank you very much for that. But other than the breakup, there's some things that I deal with every day, and I've been dealing with since I was a kid, and that is my family. And this is something I don't talk about with anybody in real life, and the fact that I'm talking about this to 50,000 people is kind of weird, and this is going to be very emotional. It's going to be very touching for me, so I'm going to try my best not to get emotional, but it's going to be very difficult because, like I said, I've never talked about this with anyone, let alone 50,000 people on the internet, so please bear with me. But if you guys don't know, some of you guys know that I don't really, you know, talk to my family. I don't really have I don't have a family, I guess you could say. And the reason being is when I was younger, I'm going to try to summarize this as best as possible. When I was younger, about 10 to 14 years old, somewhere in between there, I'm not entirely too sure, I apologize. I lived with my mom. My mom and dad were separated because my dad was an alcoholic who abused my mother. Now, I actually don't know 100% what went on with that whole situation because I was way too young. But regardless, I live with my mom and my two older brothers. I also have a younger brother, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I live with my mom, my two older brothers, and you know, I was happy. My mother put a roof over our head. I love my mom with all my heart. She, you know, gave birth to me, and she was my rock. Like, she was my go-to. And we had a special connection when I was younger, and it's something that, you know, I'll never obviously forget about. But there was this one time where everything changed, and I remember being younger, and I remember waking up all the time at night and going to check on my mom, to, you know, hang out with my mom, whatever, you know, just, you know, do things that a kid would do if they missed their mom. So she wasn't there, and I would always go and I'd look out the window and I'd wait to see if she came back in the car, and I used to sit there for 5-6 hours a night, and it was just like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, obviously I didn't think anything about it, but it happened like every night. It was every night, hours upon end. She would leave us alone, and I was only like really young, so I didn't understand anything. And then one day I am over at the neighbor's house. It was one of my good friends, and a bunch of police cars pull up to my house next door, and it turns out that our house was raided, and crack cocaine and the walls were seized. And I later found out that my mother and my father were heavy crack cocaine addicts. They were very addicted, and it destroyed our entire family. I later learned that it wasn't just them, it was basically everybody, obviously except for myself and my brothers. It was everybody in the family that was, ruined by this at one point. And I found out some things when I grew up that were just unspeakable, and I probably will never talk about that with anyone because it's a very dark part of my life that I didn't do anything, but it's a dark part of my life that I'm not proud of to be a part of, that it's in my family. But after that happened, the seize happened, I was placed into foster care with my 2 older brothers. My younger brother that I spoke about earlier, he was separated at a young age, at about probably 3 or 4, and he's the youngest, and I have 2 older brothers. So me and my 2 older brothers were placed into foster care. If you guys don't know what foster care is, it's basically where a family is put in place to take care of children who come from troubled experiences, troubled households. Was exactly what my household was, to be nice, because my mother was leaving us late at night to go do cocaine, do crack, and that's obviously not a comfortable living condition. So we were taken away. I was taken out of custody of my parents and placed in foster care when I was young, and I stayed in foster care for 5-6 years. And when I was in foster care, it's very hard for you to become emotionally attached to people who are paid to take care of you. They're basically paid to love you. They're paid to show affection. And to me, even when I was younger, I was always someone who could read a person. I was always someone who could tell someone for who they really are. And when I lived in these homes, these foster homes, it wasn't a great thing for me mentally, because it was a lot of pretend, and it was a lot of you only doing this because you're getting paid. And a lot of the houses were like that. Now, I did meet a couple incredible people who I kept in touch with for a little bit, but there were some people that took advantage, and they treated you poorly, and they didn't care. They only wanted to get paid. And I think that really plays a big part of my role, because that gives me issues with relationships, and it gives me issues with even friendships, because I don't really know if people are being sincere or if people who they really are. And that is something that I've dealt with my entire life now, going through that experience and jumping from foster house to foster house, and going through that. So being in foster care, I finally was released when I was about 18. I got out and I moved out on my own. So I was living on my own when I was 18. So that forced me to really grow up at a young age. That forced me to go through things that people my age should not go through. I'm not saying my life is hard, because I know people have it harder, but it forced me to go through things that a person my age should not have to go through. And that turned me into the person I am today, whether it be for the negative or be for the positive. But I think I turned out really well. My family members, most of them are locked up, or they're dead, because once you deal with drugs and you get involved with drugs, it's nothing but a dark, twisted time. And there was a lot of dealing drugs. I'm not going to talk about that specifically, because that's really none of my business, or really the internet's business. But there was a lot of dealing drugs, which later led to jail time, and that led to me not being able to speak to anyone in my family. And then if I could speak to anyone in my family, I had no interest in, because I felt almost betrayed. And this is the toughest part for me, because I know it's selfish for me to be angry at my parents for being addicted to something they don't really have control over. And I obviously would like to think that that wasn't what they intended. But for me, it's like I haven't talked to my mother in years. The first time I talked to my mom for the first time when I got out of foster care was 5 years. When I first got into foster care, I was so blinded at the fact of what happened. I used to visit my mother in these cubicles, and it was really depressing. And I've met up with her before. I've talked to her before, And I remember this one time specifically. This is when I grew up, when I was like 20, 21, whatever. And I didn't see my mom for a long time, like 4 years, 3 years. And my brothers were, helping her out, whatever. And I remember meeting up with her. We went to the buffet, and I remember seeing her. And if you guys know about drugs, they do tremendous damages on your body, and they destroy the body. And I remember seeing her, and her face was so sucked in, like her face was so damaged by the drugs that people at the buffet would just stare at her, and it just destroyed me as a person. Like, that is probably one of the most unforgettable things I will never forget in my life. It's something that's resonated with me my entire life. And it just really hit me that there's no control. There's no self-control over that anymore, and it's run its course. And I haven't talked to her for years now. She texts me, she calls me, but I just can't get myself to answer. And I'm scared because I think the next time I see my mother is going to be when I'm, at her funeral kind of thing. And it's a very hard pill to swallow. And it's something that I deal with a lot. I deal with it every day, is not being able to come to fruition or come to reality with the fact that holding a grudge is selfish, and being mad at someone is selfish. Like, I don't want to do that, but I mentally can't check myself out. In terms of my dad, I have no interest in ever talking to that guy again. But basically, I don't speak to anyone in my family, so I don't really have that person to turn to. I don't really have, my brother I can text or my mother I can text when I'm going through a very hard time. Ties in with the breakup. I didn't have anyone to talk to about that. So when I did YouTube, it was amazing. But growing up now, I think this is a very good thing for me to talk about, because not having a family and not really having a crazy amount of close friends that I can really talk to about this, it makes going through life as a young adult very difficult. There's been multiple times where I've spent Christmases alone, birthdays alone, and other events and days in my life that are just, they're not really something I look forward to. So that's, obviously something I deal with. And I don't want to make this video to, like be like, depressing or sad or negative, but I just want to show you guys, what I've dealt with. And, the YouTube journey has been crazy. I've been doing this for like 4 years. I dealt with comments of, you fell off, you're irrelevant. I remember I had 20K subs and I used to upload Apex Legend videos, and I used to get like 200 views, and I stopped uploading for like 3 months. And every time I went back and looked at my comments, all everyone would say is dead channel, you fell off, and things like that. So I've been doing it for a long time, 4 years. Banned on Twitch for 2. Never gave up on that. Got my channel back. Got partnered. YouTube, didn't know what direction I wanted to go, and I finally found myself in a position to grow and take it to the next level. And it's all thanks to you guys, and thanks to all you who are actually, supporting, and all the positivity, all the nice comments, man. That means so much to me. Going through a lot in life and not, really knowing what I want to do. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I'm sorry that video was like kind of, depressing or negative or not positive. It should be a celebration for 50K. But like I said, I'm super grateful for it, and I love you guys. But it's just something I wanted to talk about publicly because I've never talked about this before. And I just want to thank you guys so much. I know a lot of you guys have known me for a while, and now you know me a little better. And for you guys who don't know me, now you know me a little better. And I know a lot of you guys have gone through things too in the comments. I get DMs all the time about people going through, traumatic experiences, whether it be breakups or whether it be things in their life. And I know this is gonna resonate with a lot of you guys. I know it's going to. So thank you guys, man, from the bottom of my heart, dude. I'm actually like crying. This is kind of weird. But yeah, sorry for getting emotional. It's just that's a very hard thing for me to talk about. I actually handled that a lot better than I thought. But yeah, thank you guys very, very much from the bottom of my heart, man. It means everything to me. And yeah, I'll never, ever take anything for granted. And you guys like saved my life and gave me a feeling I've never felt before. So thank you very much. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm probably gonna go to sleep. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys took something from it. And yeah, like I said, I don't want to feel bad for me. I just wanted to be real with you guys and tell you guys, what I go through, what I've gone through. So thank you. I'm gonna stop talking now for real. Thank you guys for 50,000 subscribers, man. I love y'all. Peace.